Welcome to All Sorts Podcast, ready to dive deep into some fascinating research. If you love exploring new ideas and challenging your perspectives, well, this is the place for you. So hit that like button, subscribe to our channel here on YouTube, and share this journey with anyone who might enjoy it. Oh, and don't forget to check out our archive of past deep dives. There's a whole treasure trove of knowledge waiting for you. And if you want even more, follow us on X, Instagram, and Threads. Links are in the notes.
And welcome to today's deep dive.
Today we're going deep into the world of dishonesty. We're going to take a look at what happens in our brains when we lie and how our bodies react.
We'll be pulling insights from a range of sources, including research in Nature Reviews, Neuroscience, and PMC. We'll also examine findings from Science Direct and delve into some perspectives offered by the Notre Dame Deloitte Center for Ethical Leadership.
So our mission for today is pretty simple. We want to understand how our minds and bodies change when we aren't exactly truthful, and what that can mean for you, our listener. Now, one of the first things that struck me when digging into this research is that lying isn't as simple as it might seem. It actually takes a lot of mental effort.
You're absolutely right. Early research by Zuckerman and his colleagues already hinted at this. They found that dishonesty is linked to a lot of cognitive work, and more recent research has really started to map out the mental mechanisms behind it.
One of the key players in all of this seems to be our working memory. It's that part of our brain that holds information and juggles it around so we can use it. Researchers have used some pretty clever experiments to figure out how working memory and lying are connected. Like, imagine trying to remember a story and then tell it backwards. That's tough, right?
It is. It forces your working memory to work overtime, and that seems to make it harder to lie. There's a study by Van Veer and his team. They call it the die under the cup paradigm. Participants could roll a die and then report what they rolled. If they lied about the number, they could win a reward. But what's interesting is that when the participants had to remember a bunch of words at the same time, they were less likely to lie about the die roll.
So it's like our brains can only handle so much at once.
It seems that way. It takes a lot of brain power to make up a lie, and if our working memory is already busy, it's harder to do both. But it's not just about holding information, is it? It's also about suppressing the truth.
Oh, that makes sense. Like, if someone asks how your weekend was, you might have to stop yourself from saying what really happened if you're going to make up a different story.
Exactly. And that suppression takes time. The Sheffield lie test showed that people take longer to answer when they're lying. And that's likely because they're busy pushing down the truth.
So the better you are at holding back, the better you are at lying.
Well, there's research that suggests that might be the case. Debbie and his colleagues found that people who are really good at inhibiting their responses are actually more skilled liars. Their lies are smoother because they can quickly suppress the truth.
But I remember reading that not all studies agree on this, right?
That's true. Fenn and his team didn't find the same link when they used different kinds of tasks to measure inhibition. So it seems like how we measure inhibition really matters. Some researchers think that tasks like the go-no-go or stop signal task are better for understanding this because they make people stop a physical action instead of a verbal one.
So instead of just holding information and suppressing the truth, our brains are also flipping back and forth between honesty and deception.
Absolutely. It's like switching gears. The Sheffield task highlights this really well. They had participants alternate between telling the truth and lying, and they found that this switching takes a toll. It's mentally draining to go back and forth. Van Boxdale even found that as people lied more frequently, they actually made fewer mistakes, almost like they were getting better at it.
So practice really does make perfect. Well, in terms of how smoothly someone can lie, I guess.
Yeah.
But not morally.
Yeah, certainly not morally. And Forster's research even explored the dishonest intention effect. They found that when people know in advance whether they'll need to lie or tell the truth, they respond faster. It's like their brains prepare for the switch. But interestingly, switching from a lie back to the truth seems harder when you have this advance warning. And Pfeiffer found a similar thing happening in interviews. When interviewers switch between honest and dishonest questions, the interviewees seem to get mentally overloaded.
It really highlights how much work goes on in our brains when we're being dishonest. Now, I want to talk about some research that's truly mind-blowing. It looks at how our brains change when we lie repeatedly.
You're talking about that research from University College London and the Duke University, right? They found that our brains can become desensitized to dishonesty.
Exactly. They designed this experiment where people had to estimate how many pennies were in a jar, and they could win money if they overestimated the number, even though it meant someone else would lose out.
And what happened? Did they start lying more?
They did, and in a big way. Their lies started small, but they grew over time. It was a classic slippery slope.
So what was going on in their brains during all this?
Well, they used fMRI to watch brain activity, and they found something remarkable. At first, when people lied, there was a lot of activity in the amygdala.
The amygdala.
Yeah.
That's the part of our brain that processes emotions, right?
Yeah.
Especially negative ones.
Right, and that suggests that lying triggered feelings of guilt or discomfort.
But that didn't last forever, did it?
No. As people continued to lie, the amygdala activity actually decreased. It's like their brains were becoming less sensitive to the negative emotions associated with lying.
Just like we get used to a loud noise over time.
Exactly. And this is where it gets really interesting. As those negative feelings lessen, it becomes easier to tell bigger lies. The emotional breaks start to fade away. And that creates this self-perpetuating cycle. The more you lie, the easier it becomes.
It's like a downward spiral.
Sadly, it is. But there's another fascinating layer to this. The researchers found that people told even bigger lies when they believed their lie would benefit both themselves and someone else.
So thinking you're helping someone can make you feel less bad about being dishonest.
It seems so, which I think really makes you think about those little white lies we tell. Those seemingly harmless fibs could be the first step down that slippery slope because our brains adapt to deception.
That's a powerful message. It underscores the need to be mindful of even small acts of dishonesty. They can have a ripple effect on our brains and potentially lead to bigger ethical lapses down the line.
It's a sobering thought. To recap our deep dive, we explored the complex mental gymnastics our brains perform when we're dishonest. We talked about working memory, inhibition, and the challenges of switching between truth and lies. We also explored how social intelligence and even creativity play a role in dishonesty. And most importantly, we looked at how our brains adapt to lying. Specifically, how activity in the amygdala decreases, which could lead us down a slippery slope of escalating dishonesty.
The slippery slope is crucial. That decline in emotional response can make it easier to tell bigger and bigger lies, essentially eroding our internal compass over time.
It really makes you think about the implications not only for our own personal choices, but for society as a whole. From those little lies we tell at work to the larger ethical dilemmas we face, understanding how dishonesty impacts our brains is essential.
So leaves us with a question. If we know that our brains can become desensitized to lying, can that awareness help us resist the temptation to be dishonest in the first place? I think that's something worth pondering.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into the brain's descent into dishonesty. We hope you found this exploration as fascinating and thought-provoking as we did. If you did, please show us some love by liking this episode and sharing it with others. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to All Sorts Podcasts here on YouTube for more deep dives into the wonders and complexities of the human mind. And remember, there's a whole world of past episodes waiting to be explored. For those daily doses of wonder, connect with us on X, Instagram, and Threads. You'll find all the links in the notes. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.